Section 8, Putting Fair Housing into Practice. Arizona Fair Housing 101. A real transaction from start to finish. The following Saturday morning, Sarah received a phone call from a new buyer. "Hi, my name is Michael," the caller said. "I was referred to you by one of your past clients. My wife and I are relocating to Arizona, and we'd like to start looking at homes." Sarah smiled. "I'd be happy to help." As they spoke, she found herself remembering everything David had taught her over the past several weeks. Instead of making assumptions, she asked every buyer the same questions she asked all of her clients. What price range are you considering? What areas are you interested in? What features are most important to you? What type of home are you looking for? By focusing on objective questions rather than personal characteristics, Sarah was allowing the buyers to define their own search. Later that afternoon, the buyers arrived at the office. As they reviewed available listings, Michael asked, "Which neighborhood do you think we'd like the best?" Sarah smiled. "I can certainly help you compare neighborhoods based on things like commute times, shopping, parks, recreation, and other objective information. The best neighborhood depends on what's most important to you." David happened to walk by and quietly smiled. She had answered exactly the way a professional should. The school question. A few minutes later, Michael asked another question. "We have children. Which schools are the best?" Sarah remembered another discussion with David. "I encourage all of my clients to review the school district websites, visit the schools if possible, and conduct their own research. Every family measures a great school differently, so I want you to make the decision that's right for your family." David nodded again. "Excellent. You provided guidance without making the decision for them." The next day, they visited several homes. While standing in front of one property, Michael asked, "Is this considered a safe neighborhood?" Sarah replied, "I understand why that's important. Rather than giving you my personal opinion, I recommend reviewing information provided by the local police department and other public resources. That will allow you to evaluate the neighborhood using information that's important to you." The buyers appreciated the response. They weren't looking for opinions. They wanted reliable information. The unexpected request. As they prepared to leave another showing, Michael quietly mentioned that his father occasionally stayed with them and used a wheelchair. "I noticed one of the homes had wider hallways," he said. Sarah resisted the temptation to recommend one home over another. Instead, she simply pointed out the accessibility features each property offered and allowed the buyers to decide which homes best met their family's needs. David later complimented her. "You didn't decide for your client. You gave them information. That's exactly what fair housing expects from us." The offer. A few days later, the buyers found the perfect home. While preparing the offer, Michael asked, "My wife wrote a letter introducing our family to the seller. Should we include it?" Sarah remembered another legal hotline discussion. "I recommend focusing on the strength of your offer rather than personal information. Purchase price, financing, earnest money, and your contract terms are much more important than introducing yourselves." The buyers agreed. The offer was submitted without a personal letter. 2 days later, the seller accepted. Looking back, after the transaction closed, Sarah stopped by David's office. "You know something?" "What's that?" David asked. "I don't think I ever had to memorize a list of fair housing rules during that transaction." David smiled. "You simply treated your clients professionally. You asked objective questions. You avoided assumptions. You gave factual information, and you allowed your clients to make their own decisions." Sarah laughed. "So fair housing really comes down to treating everyone the same." David nodded. "Exactly. The law may seem complicated, but good fair housing practice is actually built on simple habits. When you consistently provide every consumer with the same professional service, you're protecting your clients, your brokerage, and your license." As Sarah walked out of the office, she realized something had changed. She was no longer thinking about fair housing as a list of laws. She was thinking about it as part of being a professional Arizona real estate agent. Arizona broker tip. Fair housing compliance isn't something you turn on during difficult transactions. It should become part of every conversation, every showing, every advertisement, every email, and every client interaction. When equal treatment becomes your daily habit, fair housing compliance follows naturally. Online discussion. Question 1. What fair housing principles did Sarah demonstrate throughout her transaction with Michael and his family? Answer. Sarah asked objective questions, avoided making assumptions, presented factual information, allowed the buyers to make their own decisions, and treated them the same way she would treat every client. Question 2. Why is it important to focus on objective information rather than personal opinions during a real estate transaction? Answer. Objective information helps consumers make informed decisions while reducing the risk that a licensee will unintentionally influence a buyer based on protected characteristics or personal preferences. How can developing consistent habits help licensees remain compliant with fair housing laws? Answer. Consistent habits ensure every consumer receives equal treatment, reduce the likelihood of discrimination claims, and create professional business practices that comply with fair housing requirements.